Hi, welcome to Dwayne's Guitar Lessons. I'm instructor Dwayne Jenkins. In today's video lesson, we're going to be continuing our education about the guitar modes in this video series out of this book that I wrote right here called How to Play Guitar Modes for Beginners and Intermediate Students. And what we're going to be talking about today is why do we need to use the guitar modes? Okay, I guess we don't really need to use them, but they could be a really good addition to your guitar playing for not only playing lead guitar, but also playing rhythm as well. Okay, plus they really allow you to educate yourself more about the fretboard. So if you're thinking about looking at the modes, or if you're studying them or wondering what they're all about, then this video series is going to help you out, okay? And there are roughly 5 things that we can learn from the modes right off the bat. There's probably a lot more, but we'll just say, just to keep this video simple, we'll just say focus on 5 things. Number 1, understanding the notes within the major scale, because that's where the modes come out of. Number 2, create chords that are associated with each mode. That's real important for playing rhythm, okay? Number 3, create guitar licks for soloing, okay, for better soloing. And that's going to give us because each mode has a certain character to it, so it's going to allow us to have some different emotions within our guitar solos. Okay, that's what's really good about the modes as well. Number 4, okay, it's going to help us to develop our ear training, because it's going to allow us to learn about note intervals, which is the distance between 2 notes. That's what an interval is, okay? So modes allows you to work with that as well, help train your ear to understand note intervals, okay? And number 5, a better understanding of music theory. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look a little bit more further in depth on these 5 topics in this lesson. All right, so let's take a look. We're going to once again stick with the key of C because it's easiest to learn from, no accidentals, sharps or flats. And we're going to locate it on the 6th string. Okay, so if this is our E string, okay, so E is the first note, open, then it go F, F sharp G, G sharp A sharp B, C. So it tells us that we can start this mode on the 8th fret right here. And if we go through our major scale like I showed you last time, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay, so that's the first octave. Then we do it again, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And then the Ionian mode has one more note right here, okay? So that's our Ionian mode, our major scale across the fretboard in 2 frets, okay? So that is the first thing, understanding the notes within the major scale. That's why these modes are great, and all 7 of these modes are going to have the do, re, mi in them, okay? This one's going to just start on the do because it's the first note of the scale. So the Dorian, which is the second one, is going to start on the re, but it's still going to have that major scale in there. We'll look at that later. But for the most part, like I said, the 5 things that we're discussing in this video is, number 1, understanding the notes of the major scale. So this is going to let us understand this. And like I mentioned before also, many times in my training, that if you look at it in patterns, you'll be able to get this in all keys. Okay, so we'll play it right here in C, because this is our C note, C major scale right here. But we could also play it here, the 5th fret, that's our A note. So that would be, we could play the A major scale, same pattern and everything, notes line up the same. Can you see how that works? So once we know that, we can do it all along the fretboard in any key we want. We just have to know those pattern of notes. So that's the first thing that the modes really help us out with. Once we know that major scale pattern, we can play it in any key. Okay. Number 2, we create chords that are associated with each mode. Like for instance, this is a major chord. This is a major scale, the C right here. Okay, so we have our C major mode, C Ionian mode. And we can also play our C major chord within that mode because of the fact that those notes that are in that chord are in that mode. If you look at this mode, you'll see very clearly this note is in there, 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 and so is this one. All these notes are in that mode, okay? So that lets us know that's a major mode because we can play a C major chord over that mode. So we can play a C major chord if you have like a looper or something. You can play that C major chord. Now, we can also play other chords too, like we could play a C major 6 chord. We could play a C major 9 chord, okay? Because they're in that mode. Oops. Sorry about that. But you understand what I'm saying. See, that note is in there, that note is in there. Okay, in that mode, you can see it. If you really analyze you know your note patterns very well, you can tell those chords are in there. So that helps you with creating chords that are associated with that mode. So you create those chords and you can play that mode with those chords and it'll sound great because of the fact that the notes in the chords are the same as the notes in the mode. So you could go and play that with those chords, okay? And I'll discuss that a little bit more in detail in further lessons. Okay. The third thing was create guitar licks for soloing, for better soloing, right? That's the main reason why a lot of people learn the modes is for guitar solos. So, but like I said, you can also use it for rhythm. But okay, so we know the scale. So we could. So you can do all kinds of really cool stuff with that. Okay, so if you played any of that, like that C major chord that I mentioned earlier, you could play this melody over in the mode over the top of that chord and it's going to fit perfect because the notes are all the same in the chord and in the melody. Okay, so that's another reason for learning the modes. Okay, that's our third reason. The fourth reason, develop ear training by learning note intervals. Okay, so like I mentioned before in the last video, and if you didn't see that, I highly recommend check that out. I'll see about leaving the link below if I can. Anyway, that lets us know what notes. Okay, so we can tell it's do re right there. We know it's not do re. That don't sound right. We know it's not do re. We know that. See, so we could go do re. No, that ain't right. Do re. Yeah, there it is. Not here. Do re. That don't sound. You see what I mean? So it lets us learn our note intervals, especially if we go along the fretboard this way. Okay. So that really helps with ear training. Okay, so you could go do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay, and then try to do it across the fretboard. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And the more you can associate your voice, or if you can't sing, just at least hum it. You make a connection with the instrument better, okay? So that really helps with that ear training as well. And then fifth, we talked about music theory. It really helps you with music theory because, once again, how the notes all work together in both the chords and the melody. Okay, it allows you to learn how to create chords. There's a lot of different chords that you can create just out of this one simple Ionian mode major scale, and I'll go into that in further detail later on in another lesson, and that'll really show you a little bit more in-depth detail about how this can really help you with your, improve your music theory too. So right now, what I would recommend is just work on this major mode, the Ionian mode. Make sure you know that major scale really well. See, and by adding that note, it gives it a little bit of a flavor. And get to know the mode really well, so you can really do some cool stuff with it. Especially if you want to use it for soloing, okay? You can do all kinds of cool stuff with it. As long as you know it very well, and then you can move it into different keys too, okay? So let's say you come across a chord progression, let's say that's G to C to D. You can play it right here in G. Same pattern as it was in C, okay? Just remember that patterns. So I'd recommend that you get that pattern down very, very well. It's very important. And the more you know that, the better off you're going to be. Okay, so there we have it. A few things that we can learn out of the guitar modes. Like I mentioned before, many things that you can get out of the guitar modes. It's not just these 5 things. I just want to keep this simple, you know, just give you 5 basic ideas of what you can do with the guitar modes. And like I said, this book that I wrote on how to play guitar modes for beginners and intermediate, it goes into these things in a lot more detail. And in the next few videos, I'll show you a little bit more about it as well, okay? But this book shows you a lot of great things. I've got the different keys in there and some diagrams of the modes and stuff like that. And it's all written in a very simple step-by-step method that to get you understanding the modes. So if that's something you're interested in, I highly check that out. I leave all the leave links in the description box below for all my books and stuff that I use that might help you as well if you're, you know, concerned with like maybe picks that you use or strings or, you know, amplifier, guitar, stuff like that. I do leave a lot of that stuff in the links below. So check out the links below for that. And be sure to check out my website. And if you have any questions about anything I'm teaching, leave me a comment below. And check out the modes. I mean, the modes are really going to help you out with your guitar playing, no doubt about it. There's a lot of cool things they can do to help you out both playing rhythm-wise and soloing-wise, okay? And we'll look at some of those things in the next few videos. So thank you once again for being here. I appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the bell for future notifications, share it if you have somebody who's interested in the modes and having some questions about it. Keep practicing every day because that's really important. That's what's going to make you better. And I will see you at our next lesson.